I'm a lover of women. So appreciate the comment. So hi everyone, my name is Matthew Spoke. Thanks Sonny for the introduction. Really happy to be here today. Really happy to see how fast this movement is growing. The fact that we're here. I mean, the last time we were in this room for one of these meetups, as Anthony said earlier, was last year. But this community in Toronto kind of never ceases to amaze how quickly people come together, how passionate this community is. I've spent the majority of the last 2 years kind of making it my life mission to bring this message of Bitcoin, the message of the blockchain, the message of Ethereum to the corporate world that I came from. And for a while it hadn't yet landed on the radar, and as Sonny mentioned, that was my purpose when I worked at Deloitte. Recently I left that corporate world, I left my role at Deloitte, and I co-founded a new venture called Nuco. You can check out our landing page. I don't have a slide behind me, but nuco.io if you get a chance. And before you ask, if you stumble on our website, you notice that our logo is a little weird. It is a platypus. I won't explain to you why it's a platypus. If you ever feel like finding out why, you can come talk to us. So tonight I thought I'd take some time to share with you kind of my own personal ambition, my own personal reason for being in this space, the vision that guides us at Nuco, and I'll briefly talk to you about what we're working on, and finally the high expectations that we have for Toronto and for Canada. We're all here because we share a common interest, and for some of us, it's a common purpose. And in one way or another, in some form, we all share this desire to change the world for the better. And right now, it happens to be through this function, this concept of the blockchain that we think will have kind of an enormous impact on the future. And that's why these events are so important. I think it's fascinating to see the collection of people that are in this room. The fact that in this same room, there's people representing the largest banks in the country just as much as there are kind of local hacker groups. And you don't often find this kind of collection of people coming together on one concept. And there's not a lot of examples in history about kind of the organic growth of a social movement like this around a technology. You don't often see people getting excited about something that could be described as really boring and menial as lines of code that do something a little bit differently. But in similar rooms to this one around the world, there are tens of thousands of people that share this purpose, that share this interest, and that really want to see the future of this technology flourish. And although as a community we're terrible at this, Anthony was mentioning it earlier, we often look for reasons to kind of find differences between us. I'm a Bitcoin guy, I'm an Ethereum guy, I'm a public blockchain guy, I'm a private blockchain guy, I'm corporate or I'm community. And I mean, it's all kind of nonsense because I think it's worth remembering that we're all here for the same common desire for positive change. And whether that's the social wallet or unlocking inefficiencies in banking because it can give banks access to reaching untouched populations that they didn't previously have access to. And that should really be the driving force that unites us as a community. We're at the very beginning of a new industry, a new social movement, and a new technology. And most excitingly, we're the ones that are building it. I mean, it shouldn't be understated that a single person acting in this space today can have an enormous impact. Everybody joining the blockchain space today has an opportunity to really be a pioneer. I mean, Hillary was mentioning some of the women in this space. I've worked very closely with Ileana. We started this process together at Deloitte. And 2 years ago, it sounded crazy to step into a space that we knew nothing about and establish ourselves as thought leaders. And Ileana is a great example of someone who really has done that for herself. So as I mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nuco. We're a company that truly believes that we're going to change the world. And along with others like us, the reason we think we can is because we have a steadfast focus on change. We don't accept the status quo. We don't accept the mediocre returns on the potential that technology, previous iterations of revolutionary technologies have promised us. So instead of waiting on the sidelines and waiting for the world to change, we decided to jump in and to change the world. And we all know, as we constantly hear from innovators and entrepreneurs in this space, that there is an abundance of opportunity for hundreds of companies to become successful, to find their niches and to unlock value in the blockchain space. And I suspect that I'm not the only one who gets equally excited about this as I do get terrified by the implications of those ambitions. After all, we're not suggesting a faster way to deliver food. We're talking about changing the way that people interact and transact with each other at all levels of society. And I can tell you firsthand, I've been an entrepreneur now for 2 months after having spent 5 years in a really cushy and comfortable job, that it's really easy to become dissuaded and discouraged when you stop to think about the size of your ambitions. But then you also stop to think about the size of your team, and the size of your bank account, and the size of your competition. So what is it that drives us at Nuco? What is it that allows us to go after global, enterprise-sized problems with a small, local, startup-sized team? Well, simply put, it's a vision. And it's a difference on how we measure success, and it's a difference on how we measure impact. I think in some cases, having the large financial reach of a large organization, be it the one that I came from or other large organizations that are actively investing in this space, can obviously help. But as most of us know, especially if you come from the Bitcoin space, that world-changing vision often requires the ability to see through short-term volatility, dips in reputation. And this is something that the large corporate world has a really hard time with. I mean, I come from a background of large established businesses. I spent 5 years at Deloitte, as I mentioned. I think it's critical that this domain continue to attract these large established businesses. I'm thrilled to see that IBM is here tonight to talk about their offerings, but I think it's more critical that we as entrepreneurs and innovators realize that the real change is in the hands of this community, the hands of these individuals. The future of blockchain technology will be determined by groups like this, not by large corporate boardrooms around the world. It's going to be a mixture of commercial interests and collaborative groups that work to solve complex problems. And the scope of these problems shouldn't be underestimated. Anthony was making reference to some of the problems plaguing the Ethereum and Bitcoin space today, none of which are simple problems to solve. Now we at Nuco see the inefficiencies of large businesses as an opportunity. We envision a future where people get to the services they need from the companies they trust. We're not here to throw up the banks, as somebody mentioned earlier. But we think that it's in the best interest of people to get to those services without the mountain of reasons that we have today to get frustrated and disconnected from the companies that usually serve us. In everything that we do, our vision is to connect the world. To move in that direction, Nuco is building enterprise blockchain software. I like the way that William put it earlier. I think he phrased it quite well. You can go to Home Depot and learn how to build furniture, or you can go to IKEA and have a package delivered for you that's really easy to assemble. And that's probably a good way to sum up what we're doing at Nuco. So we're offering solutions to large companies to allow them to figure out how to become part of the solution rather than staying part of the problem. We're building a framework to distribute and decentralize processes. If there's an unnecessary friction in a transaction, if there's an unnecessary redundancy in information, that's where we step in. That's where we provide solutions for these large organizations to envision their corporate processes, their transaction processes, the way they connect with their employees or their customers. Now, after 2 short months since founding, we're very excited to be moving at full speed. We recently hired 5 engineers to join our team. That brings our team to a tremendous 10 people that we're very pleased with, and we're moving quickly to get to know each other and to act fast in this space. And we're expecting to be going through another growth phase pretty soon. We're also looking to connect with passionate and talented people, and that's why we're here. So if you think what we're doing is interesting, if you share an interest in this space and you want to come talk to us, we'd be thrilled to talk to you. And we're also very interested in connecting with passionate and purpose-driven companies. I think some of the biggest challenges that are going to be solved in this space are going to come from collaboration. Not single companies working on their own to go and unlock commercial interests, but groups of companies that really find a purpose and a reason to work together. And some of these world's best companies can and are located right here in Toronto. And we have some of them here in this room with us tonight. Earlier this month, Nuco was fortunate enough to be accepted into a leading Silicon Valley-based accelerator, which we're unbelievably proud to be a part of. But when we were asked to move to the Valley for this accelerator, we told them that we were deciding instead to plant our roots here in Toronto, to hire here, to grow here, to have a team here, and to simply use the Valley as a satellite office so that we can meet American companies and investors. Now, why didn't we move? Why didn't we go down to the kind of shiny destination of Silicon Valley? Because as many people have said before us, we're equally committed to the growth of a strong Toronto ecosystem. We think there's an opportunity for Toronto to stand out among its peers. And personally, I think it's great the fact that we have successes to point out, but I'm also kind of bored of hearing of the origins of Ethereum and the fact that we have a couple of big named authors from Toronto. We need more. Those are great starts for this city, but we need more risk takers, and we need more thought leaders. We need more innovators, and we need more startups. Because it only takes a few to start down a path towards an irreversible trend. And I think that's a necessary ambition for this city and for this country. I mean, a simple example, when I was still at Deloitte, he probably doesn't remember this, but I met Joseph Weinberg from KKC 2 months ago. And Joseph had a very simple vision to change something in the world that he didn't think was right. And he was doing it. He built Paycase, and that's what they're on their way to do. And I saw a guy with a vision, and that was enough to inspire kind of a boring old corporate guy to start rethinking the way I viewed problems. And I won't fully credit Joe for this new company because he might come ask me for some equity. But these are the types of unintended consequences that happen from communities like this. There's a network effect at play when you concentrate a group of disruptors that share a passion for something. And the beauty is that you might not even realize that you're doing it. You know, in 1955, there was a brand new company called Shockley Semiconductors that launched its operations in, back then, the Apricot Valley of Palo Alto, California. And Shockley was doing something nobody else was doing. Shockley was building the world's first silicon-based semiconductors to disrupt the technology from their era. And that was the first of many companies to follow that became a wave of new companies that established what we know today as the Silicon Valley. Similarly, I'd like to invite companies and entrepreneurs in this room, in this city, to join us as we commit our company, Nuco, to be part of this blockchain wave in Toronto. A wave of companies that will share in the purpose of changing the world, companies that will help establish Toronto and Canada as the place to be if you want to lead. Often, as Canadians and as Canadian companies, we become our own biggest limiting factor. We don't allow our ambitions to be as big and bold as our counterparts. We automatically discount our ability to succeed on a global scale. Well, forgive my language, but that's bullshit. And now we have to do something about it. And only the people in this room can do something about it. And if you ever find yourself questioning your ability to make an impact, consider this. The Wright brothers were among the least funded, least educated, and smallest teams in the early 1900s trying to solve human flight. They were surrounded by news of so-called leaders in their field who were likely going to reach their objective first. That said, they weren't focused on those teams. They weren't focused on the established train or boat manufacturers that could have easily put investments into airplanes. Yet they're the names that you remember. They're the fathers of flight. And why? Because they believed more than anybody else that their vision was the one that was going to change the world. That's all I wanted to share with you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.